Let's start. I'm so excited. Let's start with our first panelist. I would like Maria. Maria, hi. So I would like that you talk a little bit. How many years have you been working with Oracle technologies? Which is the thing that you love more? The things that you have seen this year?
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. How long have I been working with Oracle? Longer than I'd care to mention. 26 years with Oracle. So it's been quite a journey, and there's been a lot of really great announcements this year. One of which, or my favorite, obviously, is going to be the fact that we announced 23C has gone into beta. This will be the next long-term support release for the Oracle database. And what I thought I'd do this morning is share just one of the marquee features that we'll see in that new release. And obviously, it won't be out until next year, but one of the ones that we talked about at Cloud World and I was excited about was JSON Relational Duality. So what exactly is that? Well, we're hoping it's going to be the solution to that age-old problem of object relational mismatch. What does that mean? Well, basically, today, when we're building apps and when we deal with data in the app, we're going to represent and manipulate that data in a very different way to how it's typically stored in a relational database, where it's stored in tables as rows and columns. And it takes quite a bit of skill to be able to convert the data from both of these formats back and forth. And that can be a real headache for developers. So what we're looking to do is simplify all of that in 23C, give you the power of a very simple ask and receive from the database of exactly the data you need for the app, but without sacrificing any of the benefits that you would typically get with a relational database. So let me explain what I mean by that. We're going to continue to store the data as rows and columns inside a table, just as we do today. That way we get all of those benefits of the relational model and be able to access it with all the power of SQL. So that data could be relational data, as I said, it could be spatial data, it could even be JSON documents, whatever you want it to be. But we're going to make it really easy for developers to access that data without knowing anything about the table structures or where the data is being stored or how it's being stored. We're just going to allow them to send a single REST call to the database and get back all the data they want for their application in a JSON document. Now, if you're thinking, well, Oracle's already a document database, I'm able to store, manipulate JSON documents inside the Oracle database. I'm even able to return relational data as a JSON document today. You'd be right, that's all true today, but we're making it even easier in 23C because 23C has code name App Simple, and that's because we're trying to make it even easier for developers to build and run apps against this version of the database. So let me explain how it's going to work by looking at an example. So let's imagine we've been asked to build an app that's going to create a student course schedule. So students are going to be able to have this app on their phone or mobile device. When they open it, it'll show them what classes they're supposed to be attending today, what time those classes are, where they're going to be, who's teaching it, all that good information that's been personalized for that individual student. Now, the schema or the data for this app is going to be stored across 4 normalized tables inside the Oracle database. Just as you'd imagine, we'll have information about the students, the teachers, the courses, and of course, that actual schedule, what course is on in what room and at what time. But from the developer's point of view, they don't really want to know anything about that relational schema. They don't want to understand how I have to join all this data together to get the information I want. They'd ideally like to make that single database call and have it return all the information they need about Jill's schedule. And the obvious way to do that today would be to store all of Jill's information as a JSON document, allowing the developer to simply do a get or put API command and get all the information they need. And it is incredibly simple to do that. And of course, you can do that in Oracle today because it is an excellent document store. We do offer you the full support of SQL across JSON documents. As I said, you can store them, retrieve them, update them all in place inside the Oracle database. You can do that using standard SQL, our SODA API, or even our new MongoDB compatible API if you wish. And of course, you get all the goodies of the Oracle database, full ACID consistency across the documents, the security, the high availability, all of that comes as part of this. But there is a downside to storing all of the data for each of the individual students as separate JSON documents. The downside is that we're going to have to duplicate the common data across the different schedules in each of those documents. Okay, so our data size bloats a little bit. Disk is cheap, Maria. There's no real big issue with that. That's true. Disk is cheap these days, but the problem comes when we have to update some of that information. Trying to keep all of those documents consistent is somewhat of a nightmare for both the developers and, of course, for the DBAs. And so we're looking to avoid all of that with this new solution. The plan here is that we leave the data stored just once in those relational tables, and then we're going to create a JSON duality view on top of that data set. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to be able to return the JSON document the developer wants without having to store it in the database and without the developer having to know anything about those tables and having to write complex SQL inside in their application. They are going to just make that simple REST call to get it. So how does it work? Well, for each of the views that you define, you need to tell us what the focus is. So in my example here, I'm going to be building the student schedules. So I'm going to create my view from student, that's the primary table, and I'm calling it student schedule. And then inside of the view definition, I'm basically building the data set or the JSON document the developer wants. So I'm selecting the student name, their ID from the student table. Then I'm going over to the course table. I'm picking up things like the course name, its ID, what room it's in, who's teaching it, etc. So by defining the view this way, I'm defining the JSON document the developer wants. And then when the developer gets to access it, all they need to do is make that REST call to the Oracle database. They'll be automatically generated the JSON document with the latest data for them. They can use that JSON document in their application. They can even change it, update it inside in the app, and then put that JSON document back into the Oracle database. And the Oracle database will automatically update the underlying tables with that change. So it'll be reflected in all future JSON docs, not just for this particular student, if that's necessary, if it's some of the common data that got changed. And we can create multiple views. So we can then very quickly have a teacher schedule app that's got different information in it, created over those same set of tables without duplicating any of that data, making it super easy for developers. So I know time is short, but I'm delighted to have had the opportunity to share a little bit about what you can expect in 23C. And as I said, beta testing is open right now. We'd love to have you sign up and participate in the program. 23C will be formally available later next calendar year.
Wow, I'm just looking forward to this version. I'm just looking forward. This is so excited. So exciting. Thank you so much, Maria, for this. And for our attendees, we have a Q&A session. So please submit your questions in the Q&A box, and we are going to ask the questions at the end, so everybody have the opportunity to talk first.